Welcome to Green Building Matters, the original and most popular podcast focused on the green building movement. Your host is Charlie Cicchetti, one of the most credentialed experts in the green building industry and one of the few to be honored as a LEED Fellow. Each week, Charlie welcomes a green building professional from around the globe to share their war stories, career advice, and unique insight into how sustainability is shaping the built environment. So settle in, grab a fresh cup of coffee, and get ready to find out why green building matters.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. Once a week, I get to interview a green building professional somewhere in the world. Coming to us today is Eddy Santosa. He's in Pasadena, California. He's a LEED Fellow as of this year, and I just can't wait to learn more about what he's doing, how his career came together. I think it's going to inspire you. So, Eddy, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, Charlie.
Well, I love your title. I can't wait to get to that. Climate and nature-based design lead. That's amazing, first of all. But you got to take us back. So, Eddy, where did you grow up and you go to school?
I grew up actually in a city in central Java. You're probably familiar with the Java coffee. So that's the city that I grew, located in that island. So it's a small city in Indonesia. So I grew up in there and almost like until I was like 18 years old. So after that, I moved to Jakarta. It's the capital of Indonesia, which is still in the Java island.
Amazing. Well, I didn't know that about you. So, how did you know you wanted to maybe head off, go to college? What were some early influences? What did you want to study? What were your options then?
I think initially I was thinking about like fashion design or architecture. But in Asia, you usually consult with your parent and they suggested me to go to architecture. And I was interested in architecture because I see a laborer who work in my house and put a brick and everything. So that makes me very interesting how people make a building. So I think in Indonesia, it's not that strict. So as a child, you can just walk around the construction site. So that makes me interested in architecture process, construction and everything. So I went to the architecture school.
And I know you got your undergrad in architecture and you have a couple master's degrees. So did you graduate, do some work, and then go back for your master's? What was going on around that time?
Yeah, I think that's interesting time is like I graduated not at the right time in Indonesia. It's around 1998. It's the peak of the economic crisis in Indonesia. So kind of struggle in the beginning of my career. And I think there is a suggestion to go to master degree. And that time, I think Singapore is the closer part from Indonesia. And that time I was thinking, I go to the building science. This is something that's not common major that time. And even now, I think they changed the major, become a sustainable design or something, the master in sustainability design, because it's like maybe building science is not sexy enough to attract the student. They changed the name, although the content is still the same. So that's why I went to Singapore. The reason is like when I was in school in architecture, of my professor during the crits, usually in Indonesia, you have two professors, and one of them is giving me a good compliment, and another one says it's a bad design. So for me, it's very difficult to explain when somebody says it's a bad, right? There is no metrics, there is no measurement. So that makes me interested in building science and how sustainability, how you can explain and use a common metric that not because you like it or you dislike it. Yes, there is a component of that we cannot deny, but at least we have a little bit quantitative measure that you can put in the building.
I love that. So that building science and then later getting back into architecture sounds like it really helped you around that time. And so what brought you to the United States?
I think it's an interesting story because when I was in Singapore, I basically tried to go to US. It's like America have a big influence in the world. You like it or not, it's from a culture and everything. It's like American dream. So my uncle teach me, there is a green card lottery. So every year I just said it. I didn't expect I will get it because every year I send, you can send once every year. And then suddenly when I was in Singapore, I got a call from my mom. Hey, you got this letter from a U.S. embassy. You need to go interview and try to go to U.S. So at that time, then I try, okay, let's try, even though I was like, I like in Singapore also, like, let's try and go to U.S. So that's a story why I went to U.S.
Great story, man. I love that. And then you get further into your career. But what inspired you about green buildings? Eddy, when did you first start to hear of programs like LEED or really sustainability?
Yeah, I think it was like 2006 when I was in one of the firm. I started hearing about USGBC LA. I learned about there is a green building. It's not very popular that time. I think it's a year before I was going back to school again. I think that time I was thinking to go pursue PhD. So one of the requirement, I think you need to take a master, a coursework, which is UPenn will grant you a master degree. But after that, I decided to back to the industry, and I learned a lot about green building in that time. And I think my final project actually criticized the LEED system at that time. I'm like, what is I think it's a version 2.1. It's not perfect yet, right? There is no integrated process. I think one of my suggestions was integrative process. I think acoustic, which is in 2.1, you never see any of those requirements. So that makes me back to industry in a green building. I think I was like debating whether I should go to traditional architecture or go to the more focus on sustainability. I think it's like immigrants, sometimes your decision decide by economic decision. The green building give me a better option on that side. So I went to the green building side. Although that time, I think the option is going to 50-50, but in reality, finally, I was like 100% in sustainability.
All right. Well, I love that more prosperous path. And I think green buildings have been good to you. So let's talk more about your early career. So I know you've lived in a few different cities here in the U.S., a few really great architecture firms. So tell us how you navigated your early career here in the U.S. and what kind of buildings were you working on?
So I think it's my first career. I was hired by HMC architect. I think that's changed my life in terms of like how it's kind of unique how they approach a green building studio at that time. That time, the engineer didn't like to do any LEED submittal. Architect didn't like to do LEED submittal. So basically our studio, we did everything for engineer, doing calculation for engineer, for architect. So we basically do like a full service for engineers and in-house architects. So that makes me learn a lot. I mean, like not only from, because I was hired to help in the modeling side, but that time it taught me how to do almost documentation in the LEED process. So that makes me a little bit different when I navigate my career in the future. So that time is the project mostly is a school project, and I think it's a healthcare project and civic project. And I think it helped me a lot in terms of like navigate during 2007 or 2008 economic crisis. While another studio, they lay off a lot of people, we basically need to work overtime. So LEED that time is very popular and not many people in the market that able to deliver LEED certification. And I learned a lot. That's the first cycle of LEED, and you don't have a lot of people that you can ask, so you basically learn by yourself.
Yeah, you're right. And LEED was really ramping up then as recession was setting in.
Correct.
Maybe LEED for homes took a hit, but I think LEED for commercial buildings, luckily for you, luckily for me, really kept growing.
Yeah.
And so that was exciting. I know you've had titles like Director of Sustainability and other positions. So when were you able to shift and just really focus on sustainability?
Yeah, I think it's after that I went to like Callison RTKL. It's like a big international architect. I'm focusing more in early design. It shift my mind working with more architect. It gave me a lot of a way to learn how you do early design and how to optimize the building in early to achieve the goal. And that time is early design is not very common. So the kind of like stuff that I learned is how you balance. So a lot of people, I want to do early design, but you never do the full design. That is hard because by doing the full design, so you can do in early design phase, effectively, right? It's basically you never build a building. You want to just draw. The drawing doesn't have a lot of meaning except you already know how to build the total building. So that's make me going to the early design side. After that, I jumped as a director of sustainability in a engineering firm in Texas. So like managing the sustainability group, focusing still in LEED delivery, energy model, similar with all the requirement in the cities. There are many cities have a LEED requirement, or our client have a LEED requirement. So LEED definitely drives all the movement, and also like drive even the energy code and everything, because they need to catch up between both of them. So I think that's the story.
Yeah, some good mandates, the building codes. I know you've got that strong energy modeling background, but more and more sustainability and green buildings at that part of your. As we look back a little more, what are some of your proudest achievements?
I think it was just a few months ago. I got my LEED fellow. That's definitely one of them. I think that's probably like you've been as immigrant, you spend a lot of time. The first time I came here, I barely can speak English. I can hear it, but it's still hard. It takes me a few years before I can speak and talk in English, because I think it's LEED fellow is definitely one of them.
Well, congratulations. Welcome to the club. They let me in 2020, and I know it's a big celebration this year, and it's a high honor, man. You've dedicated your career here to not just LEED, but other programs and green buildings. So, talk about maybe credentials. You've probably got several credentials, and then, you work your way up to do LEED work for over 10 years. So what other credentials have you earned over the years? What has that meant to you, Eddy?
Yeah, I think it's first probably I'm a licensed architect in California. Nice. It's like a long process, because as a good professional, I don't think I need it. And I don't think it helped me a lot. But after I got it, I realized that it gives a lot of respect from people that you are a licensed architect. And a lot of requirement right now is using a credential like a design professional, whether it's PE or architect. So it's helped me to navigate a different type of work and a different requirement in the city. So that's one of the credentials that I got. That's probably after I spent maybe around 10 years to get a licensed architect. The other one is a BEMP, is a building energy modeling professional. Because I'm in a sustainability and building BMP, and I saw the requirement as part of ASHRAE 209, the early design modeling. So I took those tests, and it's a quite challenging test in my opinion. I had about 10 years experience. The test was designed, I think, for engineers, not for energy modelers. So a little bit tough for me, but I passed. In the first term, I think my score is barely best minimum. That's CBCP is a certified building commissioning. I got my certification because I saw the movement that commissioning will become a hit, because it was 2000. But unfortunately, I never used it. But I'm correct. Commissioning become a big thing because it was adopted in any jurisdiction. I took it before because I saw LEED adopting, and our jurisdiction in California wanted to adopt at that time. So I took a commissioning. Unfortunately, I never used it part of my career. So sometimes you need to choose a battle. There's too many things that you can do, but you need to choose what you like to do and what you are good at.
I love those certificates, the licensed architect, and those credentials. Some you'll use right away. Some it's just good to talk the language, get the vocabulary. And you're right, commissioning, retro commissioning, envelope commissioning, so much commissioning. So that is important, and I totally agree. Are there any really fun projects you've been able to work on? It's hard to pick one favorite, but what are a couple really fun projects for you on the sustainability side?
I think it's my fun project. It was my first project, actually. It is called a Frontier Project. It's a demonstration building in Rancho Cucamonga in California. It's still one of the nicest buildings that I worked with before. It was using a VRF system, underfloor ventilation, which is 2007. So that system is not common yet. We use a solar tube, kind of a lot of technology. And I think we had a lot of flexibility from the client, from the budget side. If you're looking, the budget is quite above average building that and in that time. But I learned a lot because it's a very unique building with a green roof, water cistern, bioswale. So it's one of the first LEED Platinum in California. So my first project, I learned a lot. I learned by doing, mostly from a contractor. I think we got a lot of a good contractor also. I work with, maybe you also know, Joe Murphy from Turner Construction. Yeah. So he was, I learned a lot from him as well during the construction process. So kind of unique project for me. So that's still my favorite project, even though it's one of the first one that I worked in when I started a career in sustainability. And when I applied to LEED Fellow, I still use that project. I think that project I enjoy a lot. I mean, like in terms of like working with the client, how to deliver the project, a lot of technology that's very new.
Joseph Murphy's a great guy, and what a cool project there. I can tell that still is one you go back to, and it was kind of a big milestone for you. I forgot to ask about mentors earlier, so let's hit on that just for a minute. Is there anyone, Eddy, that maybe you looked up to, maybe you read their material, maybe they opened a door for you, or some didn't have a direct mentor, they just really kind of had to be a part of committees and peers and kind of leveled themselves up, but did you have any mentors along the way?
I think mostly I learned by myself from a technical point of view, sustainability, because kind of I jumped into the profession quite up in the first time, right? I mean, like in the wave of the sustainability, there are not many people who can teach you in that stuff. But if for mentor, I usually I consider maybe Pascual Gutierrez is the director of architecture. He was a director of architecture at HMC Architect. I think I learned a lot from him, how to manage people, how to manage the project, how to handle the problem in the project, how to handle any issue with your staff and everything. I think that's the one that I consider him as one of my mentor. I think other people definitely helped my career. I learned from them also. I think there's many people in career, but I think he's probably the one who I still consider I learned a lot. Although it's not directly, he's not really like teach me something, but looking how he handled things, that I learned a lot from him.
Love that. No, thank you for sharing, giving those mentors a shout out. And then sometimes you're right, the technical, how do we do these programs and LEED changes and well changes and all that? We got to stay sharp. All right, so let's talk present day. Let's talk about this amazing title you have with the West Coast team, Climate and Nature-Based Design Lead. So what's keeping you busy day to day?
I think we currently I handle the West Coast area, and I think I just will expand like helping the development of a building performance discipline in North America as well. So currently day to day, I think we try to implement sustainability in transportation project, train, and also like some of working with the clients to make sure that we can deliver the high performance building in a sustainability project. So they were like crossover. I learned a lot of new things also, like Envision, for example, new things about like another certification. Is that type of work that we currently doing.
And do you work on some business development, project management, leading a team, all of the above? What are some of your additional responsibilities?
Yeah, I think it's all of this. Currently, we act like a startup. It's like Mott MacDonald is a big company, but the thing is a building group in North America is pretty new. It's not new, but it's still small, and we kind of do everything still, try to nimble and try to grow our dreams. Definitely, we get more projects recently and keep me busy with both technical, still doing delivery, as well as doing management, helping marketing as well. Submitting proposal. And yeah, it's like all above things. I wish I can just one, but unfortunately, we need to do everything. But it is good. I think in myself, I think one thing that I know, I don't like to do one thing. So I was one occasion, I was offer, you want to be energy modeler full time, just do energy modeling. And I'm like, oh, sorry, I don't think I can. I enjoyed doing a different thing. So I think that's a kind of job that I think is suitable for me.
That's right. Oh, I love that. No, big company, international, gosh, over 10,000 employees. And it's exciting to see what you're doing there. Well, I'd love to talk about what's next. I like to ask a green building professional like you, what's exciting that's coming at us down the road? What are you reading up on? What are you kind of excited about?
I think I was thinking this thing about a year ago. I think I presented in a conference in Switzerland. So for me, the future of a built environment is like to 3D. It's not three-dimensional. It's a 3D is a decarbonization, data, or you can say a digitalization. The third one is a defragmentation. Decarbonization, I think most of us know already. So how people start embracing decarbonization in their asset from a client side, from the federal side, or from a country side, they start implementing decarbonization. Data and digitalization, I think the more you want to achieve decarbonization, you need more digitalization and data. How you can make sure you get the proper data information and how you may be using a digitalization to assist you to achieve the goal that you want. Like the trend now, like digital twins, or I think when you design a net zero, the data become important, right? I mean, like how you predict how big is your PV, you cannot just use ASHRAE schedule anymore in your energy modeling. You need the real data, how people use the building. And there is none. So there is none that is available in the market. So the availability and the data become critical, especially how people use the building. That's not very common available right now. The last one is defragmentation. Defragmentation is you see the building, especially the wall, is consisting with 20 materials from gypsum board, steel frame, insulation, maybe screw. I think it's a building industry in the future. I think they will try to make more a vertical integration of the product. I think it's become a critical of the success of a green building, right? I mean, like we know more and more in envelope play important factors. There is a insulation, thermal bridging issue in envelope commissioning become critical. How the connect between the component of building is important to not only to improve the performance. And we know talking about decarbonization as well, how to reduce the low embodied carbon by doing a vertical integration on a prefab system, reducing the amount of material. You will achieve not only the better performance, but also low embodied carbon. So I think those are the trend that you will see next 5-10 years. I think people will focus on that one. Although there is an outlier, I think I say like regenerative design, resiliency kind of stuff. I think that the key movement will fall in that 3 areas. Defragmentation, I will be still guessing it's happening, but I'm not really sure because it's harder. That's the portion is changing how you make material, wall, and assembly is slightly different, but hopefully it's happening because we need it in a building industry.
Well, I've really been focused on technology too, digital twins, AI. It just seems like all of that really can help. It can help. It's not just the building certifications. You hit on regenerative design. It's an exciting time to be in this movement. So I agree with all of that. Eddy, let's get to know you a little more. Some kind of rapid fire questions here in our podcast. What would you say is your specialty or gift?
I think it's probably, I can say I read pretty quick. I read like I see the drawing. So that's my gift. Maybe it's helped me to finish reading very quick. I think that's what I would do.
Okay. Did you practice that when you were younger, or you just naturally could read quickly and pick up on things?
I like reading. So when I was a child, when a newspaper coming to my house, I ran, sometimes fighting with my sister to grab the first newspaper and read. There is a story on the part of the newspaper that I want to read every day. So I think it's like a small comics. But after that, I usually almost reading everything in that newspaper. So I love reading.
Wow, I love that. That is a specialty and a gift, man. I love that. Well, how about any good habits or routines? Anything to help you stay on point?
I think it's work habit and routine. I think it's participating in an organization. I think reading a LinkedIn post actually really helpful for myself. I can see people in my network post different things, and sometimes you don't realize there's a new things. As long as you curate the people that you want to see, make sure it's not mixing with many things. But I think LinkedIn post is really help. After that, you can go to the link that they provide. Sometimes you go to the rabbit hole and go detail and more detail going to the part of the news that you see. So I think those help me a lot to see the movement. Sometimes new regulation coming from them, and it's hard for us to just keeping up from the news. And with your peers, definitely help you to grow.
Wow, I love that. I just like to ask my guests, best practices, good habits. And I also like to ask about a bucket list. So not everybody has a bucket list, but Eddy, what are one or two things maybe on your bucket list? Some travel, some adventure, maybe you want to write a book. What's on the bucket list?
I think I want to travel more, try to enjoy a different type of culture. And I wish to spend more time, I think, learning a different culture. I think that makes interesting. It's not only just visit, but you learn how people work in there, different type of architecture as well. I love architecture, so I always love to work how people see, how people implement green building. You can say, I guess, very different. I went to Switzerland. People save electricity a lot, but they use a lot of water because maybe they get the water easily. But there is no low flow or stuff. Japan is different. I think that's the one that I want to enjoy more. But try different type of culture and see how people live and implement sustainability in their life.
Any other spots you want to go back to, or new places you've just definitely got to go to?
I think I want to try probably East Europe, but not the right time right now, probably. But I think that's the part of the region that I never visit. Maybe Australia and Africa. That's another one. But I think maybe, hopefully the situation getting better and enjoy the traveling more.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. It will. This too shall pass, as they say, but it's sad. Let's talk about books or documentary or podcast. But I just love to ask my guests on the podcast, hey, is there a good book or two you'd recommend to our listeners? It doesn't even have to be about buildings.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting. I say I like reading, but I rarely read the books. Except technical book, like ASHRAE book. I recently read the ASHRAE 228. So, but I really read regular books, I guess a novel or any story book or any management book. I rarely read those one. Mostly I read from the news or from the article in the internet. So it's maybe I have a short attention. So the article in the internet helped me better because I can spend 10, 15 minutes to finish it instead of going to the book. But for the technical part, yes, unfortunately, we need to read the small line one by one. So recently the book that I read, probably the latest one is ASHRAE 228.
ASHRAE 228, I love that. Well, these are important. These are important to our day-to-day and the work we do. And we'll put some links to all these recommendations in our podcast show notes. Before we kind of get to our last couple of questions, just again, if you look back on some of the work you're doing, either any volunteer work, you like to speak and teach, anything else you want to hit on that's really keeping you excited in this green building movement?
I think it's the current movement. It makes me excited. I think with the focus of the not only government, private sector, keeping push the decarbonization. That makes me definitely excited to see what happened. I think it's when we were in 2010, people say, next 20 years will be net zero building, right? The code will be designed for net zero. So it's almost the time now. see what happened after. Do we achieve what we envisioned a long time ago or not? I think in my opinion, the building industry is pretty good as with the current movement and the energy code and everything. I think we almost got that level that we can claim that we closer to the net zero, and I think we can achieve the goal in 2030. So when I talk about like, oh, net zero in 2030, that sounds a long time ago, but now it's only like 7 years left.
Coming fast, right? 2030. And I guess it's hard to believe, as we're launching this podcast, it's almost a new year here. So you're right, right around the corner, work to do. Eddy, last couple of things here. You're sharing wisdom with us. You're telling us your story, your green building career. If you look back on your career, is there anything you wish you'd have known earlier?
I think it's probably specific to if you are in US. I think public speaking is very good, but I think it's expanding more outside the US. But because I was from a Asian culture, mostly we think like, if you know more, just be humble, don't talk. Which is like, I think it's public speaking is very important, how you can convey your message and how you craft your message for people to understand your story. I think those the one that I wish I know earlier. I think I'm good in technical, but sometimes when I explain the technical part to people, they're like, oh, that's too much. I mean, like, sometimes people just want to know short message, how to make your message simple so people can adopt it in their work. I think that's the story that I always use is, the energy modeling report. We got the energy modeling report, maybe 15, 20 pages. One of my architects came to me like, Eddy, just tell me what I should do with it. Because the engineer love to give them all the report, like 20, 30 pages, and they don't give them summary. So sometimes you just need to know what people needs and convey a simple message so people can keep moving in their life.
Keep moving. Yeah, keep moving. And I love that. All right, my last question. Let's say someone listening to this podcast, they're getting really excited about your story. Maybe they're either a young professional starting their green building career, or maybe they're making a career pivot. Any words of encouragement, Eddy, for them as they're jumping in now?
I think if you like the roller coaster career, I think green building is one of them that you need to keep flexible and changing your strategy, how to strategize your career, because I think the movement is very quick. Before like a LEED consultant, very popular, right? Now it's become overcrowded and you need to strategize how you will be in a different requirement and like a quote on from the city also. So I think green building is one of a good career when you enjoy different things. It's not very difficult compare maybe learning new programming language, but it's definitely exciting to see the movement and you learn from a different industry. You not only listen to one people, I think you learn from a contractor, architect, engineer. You will learn a lot of different things. So if you enjoy learning, that's one of the, I think, a career that I recommend. If you don't like to learn, that's probably not suitable for you.
Lots to learn. It continues to evolve. And
yeah,
man, what a fun conversation today. I know we're getting to know each other a little bit through our LEED Fellow Circle. Mm-hmm. Can't wait to hang out more with you. And I just want to say, hey, thank you for being on the podcast. Everyone listening, make sure you connect with Eddy on LinkedIn. Send him a message. Let him know what you thought here. And check out the work that he and his team are doing at Mott McDonald there. But I just love that title, Climate and Nature-Based Design Lead. Congratulations on your LEED Fellow. And thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, Charlie. Definitely, it's a fun conversation with you. I look forward to another opportunity with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. At GBES.com, our mission is to advance the green building movement through best-in-class education and encouragement. Remember, you can go to gbes.com/podcast for any notes and links that we mentioned in today's episode. And you can actually see the other episodes that have already been recorded with our amazing guests. Please tell your friends about this podcast. Tell your colleagues. And if you really enjoyed it, leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on next week's episode.